Hi, my name's Jerry and welcome to this week's edition of Who the Do You Think You Are? Thank you very much for joining me again today. I'm so excited about conditions because these are the thoughts and feelings that affect everything that we do, the way we think about ourselves and ultimately our self-worth. So let's dive in. So the thoughts we have about ourselves are formed really early on in our childhood. But even though that was a long time ago, they still crop up and can cause problems. And I see lots of clients that have limiting beliefs, low self-worth, and are at the time of seeing me are unable to connect those dots. So I just want to share some insights with you in the hope that you can connect some dots and see if you've got any conditions getting in your way. These conditions can really distort the reality of what you're actually capable of, and often you will suppress parts of yourself because it's not been safe to do so in the past. So when we are young, we are really dependent on our adult caregivers. So it's super important that we meet all the requirements. We have no choice to depend on adults because we need them to meet our physical and emotional needs. So some part of your personality appears to be genetic, so shy, hypersensitive, any of those things, but studies have actually shown that how our families respond to these predispositions actually affects how we think about ourselves. So in babyhood, your chief task is to get caregivers to respond. So really quickly, you learn to please to get the things you need. And so to earn approval, you spontaneously create parts of you, those parts that are the ones that gain this approval. And generally, that is what forms your personality. So the disapproved parts of you might be loud, cruel, greedy, all of those things. And those disapproved parts will shrink because they're not seen, they're not validated, they're not loved parts of you. And so you learn to kind of hide those parts away. But they stick around in the background and you hide them because you feel ashamed, embarrassed, upset, depressed. And so you kind of create a defensive framework, if you like, but what that can do is create a barrier between you and your true self, and the brain will do anything to keep you safe, so it almost won't let you access those parts or thoughts. And that could be really sad because you are potentially denying yourself of any natural gift. That could be creativity, it could be that you might want to be a sports person, any of the above. And what's also really important to know is these conditions form part of how we feel about ourselves. So psychologists call this conditions of worth. How we are treated early on and how we are accepted forms all part of how we feel about ourselves as an adult. So it could be things like if you've been told, be seen and not heard, stop showing off, don't cry, any of those things. These are conditions and rules that were placed on us. Many clients will come to me with challenges around self-worth. And actually, when we connect back the dots, it's quite clear where you can see those conditions come from. And again, it's not about parent bashing, it's not about any of that. It's about doing the research on yourself to look back and have a look at any conditions that you think might have formed part of, I guess, your belief system. And they're often really hidden. But I would say anybody suffering with low self-worth, it's definitely worth having a look at those conditions that you might have had earlier on in life, because they will be showing up. If you were rewarded for always taking care of other people, for example, and putting everybody else first, that may well creep into your adult life. You could end up in relationships where you're the one that's always doing the things and putting that person first because that's always been the way you've got love and acceptance. And I'm not saying it's not nice to put people first, but often when I see people with low self-worth, it is because they're thinking of everybody else. And this is a really common one. Being too loud is another one. You know, we all want to perform, we all want to show off when we're kids, and often we're told, go away, be quiet, stop showing off. And that can really suppress that side of us that's quite creative, quite loud, quite bubbly. And then later on as an adult, we don't want to be loud, we don't want to be too much. We don't want to do that because we feel frightened to do so. Our brain by this point tells us, you won't be loved and accepted if you're loud and if you're spontaneous. But I guess what I'm saying is consider that if that was a fabric of who you were early on, if that was like your personality before it was suppressed, then that part of you is still hiding away. And that's when we can feel lost and disconnected because we don't feel authentic, because we're not able to utilise those brilliant parts that was us from the day we were born. It can also show up when you're trying to run a business or climb the career ladder or push us into high resilience. If you were called lazy, was it ever okay for you to take some time to yourself? Was it okay for you not to do life at 1,000,000 miles an hour because parents and caregivers said that that's what you should do and that's how you get rewarded? The responses from caregivers early on were anything that caused displeasure. So that could be smacking, correcting, or punishing. They don't feel safe, and we shove them to the background and crack on with the personality that's formed based on the rules that have been given to us. So like I say, that can manifest its way into lots of different areas in your life. You might find you're in a relationship based on that personality and those conditions. You might have chosen a job based on those rules and conditions. So I feel it's really worth exploring this and bringing it to the table, talking about it in the therapy room, getting it out there, having a look at all the things that have made you into who you are. And I think sometimes we can shut ourselves down before we even get started with things. And the hard thing is, these are subconscious bloody things. So it does start with some curiosity to build your self-knowledge and make the time to do some digging around, find the data, have a look at those things that have happened to you that could be showing up and impacting your self-worth, because there will be parts of you that you are hiding, absolutely, without a doubt, parts of you that are hidden in there that perhaps answer the question as to why you might feel disconnected. And as I've said before, it is not about parent bashing. It's about everybody's doing the best they can do in the circumstances they're in, but it's about taking the time and being really, really curious about yourself and understanding how these thoughts and feelings are impacting you now, today. And so what I really, really want to encourage you to do this week is spend some time really thinking about those early years. Have a think about, what messages did I receive when I was growing up? What did you need to do to become accepted? Are there situations today where you must meet certain expectations to gain approval? And if you find any, ask yourself, how are these conditions impacting me today? How is that old condition of blank impacting me and ultimately the decisions I'm making? Now, be gentle with yourself. You might find some conditions that are painful, and if that's the case, seek support. See a therapist, talk to a friend. Have a look at anything that you might need to further explore, because finding out who you truly are is one of the best things you can ever do for yourself. It's about getting curious about all the things that have shaped you into who you are today and just having a look and seeing any of the things that are impacting you. And that will give you the power to move forward. With that knowledge, you will have the power to move forward in your life and understand where these things have come from. And then you can see they're not relevant anymore. We don't need to be thinking about those things. But with kindness and acceptance, we can see where they've come from. And often, if we do this work a little bit later on in life, it can feel overwhelming because we've not seen it before. But it's about piecing everything together and working as we are today. It's about understanding those conditions. They might not go anywhere for a while, but actually clocking them and noticing them and using them as valuable information that you can sense check when you're making decisions. You can see where they've come from, and then you can lean into other parts of yourself, because we all have them, the stronger, logical parts, to guide you through those decisions. I really hope that was helpful this week, and I would love to hear how you get on. Please feel free to drop me a message or email me on info@jerrycarey.com, and have a great week. Thanks. See you soon.